Hello everyone, this is POW. In this video, we're going to be talking about a late season cold front that's going to bring much below average temperatures for the central US, along with snow and flooding rains for Florida. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button and notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. All right, so let's get started. This is Saturday afternoon, April the 17th, when I'm recording this video. And you can see this is the temperature anomalies by Tuesday evening. And you can see well above average temperatures up here in Alaska, along the west coast. But underneath it, we've got a lot of cold air that's actually going to pour down into the central US with these 20-degree below average temperature anomalies, and they will reach all the way down to the deep south, all the way into Texas by Tuesday, going into Wednesday. So how do we get there? So I always like to explain kind of the why before the what, and it goes all the way out here in the West Pacific. And this is a massive typhoon that's happening out here by the Philippines. This is Super Typhoon Sergi, and it's got 180 mile per hour winds associated with it and 220 mile per hour wind gusts. This is really a dangerous storm. Fortunately, it's expected to curve away from the Philippines and swing up. But what that does is that allows the upper level air pattern to change, kind of alter the jet stream. And that's going to be one of the driving forces, actually going to bring some much colder temperatures into the central US. So if we move off closer to home, you can actually see the typhoon off the edge of the map here. But this is out here in the Pacific, and you can definitely see this typhoon recurves and kind of swings around, and there's your ridge that will dive deep down in off the west coast. You can see the west coast is high and dry out here, and it pumps all the way back into Alaska, where they had those record cold temperatures last week, and now they're experiencing those well above average temperatures this week. With this ridge pumping up into Alaska, that's going to set up blocking and allow those colder temperatures to start funneling down into the US, especially getting into the central US. By the time we get into Sunday, and it's a step down process, and we'll go all the way down into Texas by Wednesday. So let me kind of walk you through. Here are the temperature anomalies with that first initial cold front. We already had a cold front entering all the way down to the deep south, and these temperature anomalies, even this morning, even today, are 15 degrees below average temperatures for much of Texas and Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. But if you look to the north, that's where our next initial stronger front will come into play as we go throughout the week. Here's the overall surface map as we go into Sunday morning. You can see where the cold air is. 1032 Arctic high pressure, 1043 Arctic high pressure. That is straight from the Arctic coming south down here, down all the way down to the deep south. That's our first initial cold front, and it is stalled over the Gulf of Mexico. That is being inundated with some heavy rainfall into portions of the Panhandle of Florida, as well as central Florida. And that cold front doesn't go anywhere for several days. As we go into Monday, that stronger cold front pushes all the way down, now entering the central US with those colder anomalies. That 1034 Arctic high pressure dives all the way down into Montana now. That brings some much needed precipitation in the form of snow into South Dakota, and that's going to start creeping into Iowa as that stalled front just sits there over Florida for several days. This is into Monday, still bringing that very heavy rain, and that one low pressure will be into the Great Lakes, dumping some heavier snows in the upper peninsula of Wisconsin, getting into Michigan here. But as we go into the day on Monday, here's the actual overall actual temperatures of what you're going to see with that first initial front. Everywhere in red are going to be below freezing temperatures for much of Montana, getting into Wyoming, much of the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, getting into portions of Nebraska, where you're still holding on to those widespread 30s and 40s for the Central Plains, and then as well as 40s and 50s happening down here into the southeast with much of Mississippi, Alabama, getting into Georgia, the Tennessee Valley, getting into Kentucky, the Ohio Valley, with much of the 40s with that first initial cold front on Monday. So as we go through the day on Monday, there's that snow line. As the cold front dips a little bit further south, it brings the snow along with it. So now it'll be entering the picture, getting into portions of Colorado again, especially as you get into Nebraska. That second cold front just continues to stall along the coast into Florida, just dumping that relentless rain for them. We go deeper in the day into Monday night, getting into Tuesday night. Now that snow line creeps all the way down into portions of the Texas Panhandle. We're talking more snow again for Denver regions and to Colorado, that 1034 Arctic high pressure. Now the heavier snow is over Kansas. Much of Kansas is going to get slammed from this system with some heavier snows. This will actually extend into northwest Missouri by then. I know a lot of these places you thought you were done with the snow. This is a very late season cold front for the third week of April. And it's only happening because this blocking is setting up just the right dynamics is coming together. And as it's allowing this colder air to funnel all the way down to the deep south, and this dumping some heavier snows along with it into Iowa as well, as that, again, that cold front just sit and stalls over much of the central and Florida pretty much almost all week. Now by Tuesday, you can definitely see where the cold air, the temperatures are going to be and where that cold front is going to lie. All the red is well below freezing temperatures. Those freezing temperatures will extend into Kansas by then, going into the Texas Panhandle, going into the Oklahoma Panhandle as well. Much of Missouri will see a frost by Tuesday morning, going into Illinois, into Indiana, and the Ohio Valley. Much of Wisconsin into Michigan. You're still holding on to the 50s and upper 40s for much of Texas into the southeast as we go into Tuesday morning. But out west, you're going to remain well above average temperatures with that ridge building out west. So that's why I kind of zoomed in to these central locations, so you can actually see the actual temperatures that are going to be taking effect. Because by Tuesday and getting into the afternoon hours of Tuesday, your snow line is going to be all over Missouri by then. I mean, yeah, we're talking heavier snows getting into Missouri by the third week of April. That's some crazy stuff. And that'll extend into central Illinois, getting into Chicago, more snow coming up for you guys in Indiana. As again, that first initial cold front just stalls over the Gulf pretty much all week, dumping some heavy rain into Florida. As we go into the overnight on Tuesday, that colder air just keeps penetrating a little bit further south, having that overrunning conditions. Now much of Indiana is seeing those heavier snows out for them, and then you got getting into southern Michigan here, getting into Detroit with more snow for you guys. This will run up the Great Lakes as again that cold front just sits there and spins and dumping those heavier rains again into Florida. And then as we go into Wednesday morning, look at the Arctic high pressure, 1028 high pressure over Texas. When you clear out, have the radiational cooling, that's going to drag the colder air further south, and you're going to be dropping those temperatures even out in the 30s into Texas. Out ahead of it, we'll have that snow line getting into northern portions of Ohio again with some heavier snows, especially like into Cleveland. That'll get into the Great Lakes region, and down to the south where that low will be over land. You'll have rain for much of West Virginia, getting into Pennsylvania and upstate New York. But look at the temperatures by Wednesday morning. I know a lot of these areas down here has already planted the plants. I mean, you should have by now. This is a very late season cold front. So all these areas, look at all the areas in red with freezing temperatures by the time we get into Wednesday morning, the 21st. All the state of Missouri, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana. I mean, you're talking freezing temperatures from much of the central U.S. getting all the way down to Oklahoma, freezing temperatures, even to the Texas Panhandle. A lot of these areas into Texas, now they're only zooming in into say 38 degrees at the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They're only, you're only seeing where they officially record the actual temperatures for the official recording sites, and those are typically at the airports. Well, no one really lives at the airport. I mean, so if you live out in the suburbs, that's where you're going to be, could fall a little bit further, especially with clear skies, light winds. So much of these places are going to be seeing a frost coming up, even down to central Texas, and much of the Dallas-Fort Worth area are going to be seeing a frost away from the Dallas-Fort Worth area and the outlying areas. And you kind of know where you are if you live in those cities. You're going to have to cover those plants, or at least bring them inside for that one day, as the temperature can be cold enough, could potentially do some damage, especially down into Texas. And that colder air will extend. Look at that. I mean, even for Louisiana, upper northern portions of Louisiana, you're getting this because you're going to have clear skies with light winds, radiational cooling will allow those temperatures to drop and kind of bottom out. And that colder air just basically confined over the central U.S. and doesn't really get into parts of Georgia, where you're hanging on into the 50s and your well 20s up here to the north. So as we go into those temperature anomalies, you can definitely see where those 20 degrees below average temperatures are going to be taking hold for much of the central U.S., getting down into Texas. So where your average low is typically about 56, 58 degrees in Dallas-Fort Worth, we're talking, mid 30s, upper 30 temperatures for the heat island, and maybe a little bit lower than that, near freezing, and you're definitely going to be experiencing a frost. So a frost is considered 36 degrees or lower. So anything 36 degrees or lower is going to be doing some damage to your plants if they're not covered. So you're going to take all the precautions necessary, and I'll give you plenty of advance warning that this is coming all the way down to the deep south, so you can kind of prepare. But as we go into Wednesday night, going into Thursday morning, that low will be traversing up into the northeast, and on the backside, could be seeing a dusting on the backside of some leftover snow getting into portions of West Virginia, maybe a dusting, say, in Pittsburgh by then again, but mainly a rain event for much of the northeast as that low continues to push across. And by going to the day on Thursday morning, this low hangs out in Maine, so it'll dump some heavier snows into the upper elevations again, and upstate New York, getting into Vermont, New Hampshire, going into northern portions of Maine. You'll see some of that heavier snows penetrating on the backside. You can definitely see where these blue lines are, where the cold air is going to be by Thursday, as these warmer temperatures definitely modify down for the deep south. And they won't be nearly as cold as they were the previous night. You can see the greens showing up in Texas instead of the purples. So you'll be 10 degrees warmer coming up on Thursday night versus what you saw on Wednesday night for much of Texas and much of the southeast here, as those 20-degree below average anomalies gets pulled further north and goes into more of the central U.S. and goes into more of the Ohio Valley by then. And as we go into the day on Friday, it doesn't take long. This is April in Texas. As soon as the winds turn around, that heat turns around as well. So even by Friday morning, you're talking above average temperatures by then. And typically when the winds turn, those temperatures turn, and they can elevate quickly as that colder air modifies to the southeast. And as it does, it's going to bring some rain with it, with those warmer temperatures. And we could be talking possibly severe weather already again by the time we get into the day on Friday, and that will only swing to the southeast. So this is a cold initial blast, and then we could be talking severe weather as we go into the day on Friday and to Saturday for much of Texas and going to the southeast again. So as you look at the snow that's going to happen between now and Friday morning, you can see where that cold front's going to lie. Pretty much going to traverse across much of Montana, get into Wyoming, dumping more snow into Colorado, into Denver again. It's going to set up shop, bring in more snow for possibly New Mexico, get into portions of the Texas Panhandle. This will swing across, get into the northern portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, Nebraska, especially as we get into Missouri, especially northern portions of Missouri, getting into central and Illinois, northern portions of Indiana, as well as northern portions of Ohio. This will continue to swing across and get into northern portions of the Mid-Atlantic states, as well as New England, as you won't get snow, all the way down to the south. It just won't, won't be cold enough. But yeah, here's your European model. Kind of implies the same way as that cold front will traverse across the central U.S. and then swing up into the northeast. Here's your rainfall. Now I split it up. This is through Friday morning, right? And so much of the west is going to be dry. That's where the snow is going to creep, where this cold front is. That's where the snow line is going to be. All the way down to the deep south. There's where that cold front is going to stall out for much of the week, just being inundated with central Florida with some very heavy rain and huge flooding concerns. But look at Texas, look at much of the southeast, high and dry as Arctic high pressure swings overhead and dries those areas out through Friday. But like I mentioned, as the winds turn around, and if I just add 2 more days to it, add Friday and add Saturday, as those winds turn around and the warmer temperatures come back into play, and that warm Gulf comes back into play, yeah, we could be talking heavier rains by then, and all the way down into flooding rains, possibly even severe weather for much of Texas, Louisiana, southern portions of Mississippi and the Dixie Valley area, getting into Georgia as well as the Carolinas, and that would be possibly Friday as well as Saturday for those areas. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching and staying with me on this video. Do like this video. Definitely leave your comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after storm.